What's going on, guys? I hope you're all doing well. Before we start with the video, I just want to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel for more NBA content like this. And also, if you do enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like. It makes a big difference in helping this channel grow, and I would greatly appreciate it. Alright, in today's video, I wanted to talk about the thing that has been dominating the NBA news headlines for the past, 3 days around now. It is a wild story, something that has a lot of layers to it. There's a lot that we still don't know, but it's important. It's very, very significant to a team that, according to the betting odds, has the favorite to win the championship next year, right? This is the Boston Celtics. And of course, I'm talking about Ime Udoka, who was just suspended for the entire season for violating team rules, multiple apparently, for allegedly having, a relationship with someone else within the organization. And apparently, there's some questions about whether it was consensual or not. It first was reported that it was consensual, but now some details are coming out indicating that he made some unwanted advances, which completely changes the thing. And, he fucked up. Let's just be honest, man. He made a really boneheaded decision that completely ruined his future. He had everything going right for him. I mean, he was a first-time head coach who took his team to the NBA Finals. Like, that is such a hard thing to do, and to have that and to gain the respect as one of the best coaches in the NBA, and to just throw it all away because you were stupid. Like, come on, man. You fucked up big time. Not even mentioning the fact that you cheated on Nia Long, man. Nia Long, man. Like, that's just... You deserve hell for that, man. Okay, but regardless, right? I don't want to talk necessarily about that because there's a whole thing about that, right? There's still a lot we don't know either. We saw how messed up the reporting was. We saw the Celtics kind of dance around some of the details. People on Twitter started naming and doxing random girls who worked in the organization. Like, really sad stuff. But this is what happens when you have two incredibly shitty journalists who try to report and are obsessed with being first instead of being right and leaving a bunch of details out when it leads to a bunch of conspiracies that aren't warranted. So, Woj and Shams are shitty for that, but regardless, this is obviously a big deal for many reasons. The head coach is done for the whole year. He is not going to coach a single game this season. And this is a team, like I said, that went to the finals last year, that made a lot of decent moves in the offseason, that really improved their roster. And it got people thinking that, okay, this team is really going to start going back. They're going to be a perennial contender for years to come because their core is so young, right? Tatum, Brown, Smart. They have a really good core that's relatively young that they can, build around for years to come. And they have a really good coach for that too. But now that's completely thrown away, and they have this random guy, I don't even know his name, but he's going to be basically the interim coach for the season, who, by the way, has a domestic violence case, which is very bizarre. Regardless, this team is in a very interesting spot, and when you think about what this means for them, it's hard to dictate what it actually means for them. Like, does it change the fact that they're a contender? No, it doesn't. They have a really good roster. They have elite players. They did get really good players in the offseason. They signed they traded for Malcolm Brogdon, and they signed Danilo Gallinari, who unfortunately, tore his ACL, and he's not going to play this year. But regardless, they have decent depth. Obviously, Brogdon is going to help with that too. The only thing now is that Robert Williams is going to miss some time too, because he just had a surgery. So a little bit of their health is in question right now. And when you add the fact that, yes, there is, the injury to Gallinari, Robert Williams is hurt, and now your head coach is just gone, it's hard to dictate what that means for them. Like I said, it doesn't change the fact that they're a contender, but does it make them the favorites? Does Udoka being gone change the fact that they're probably the favorites in the East? I don't know. It's hard to think about what the outlook is for this team because they still are really good, right? I don't know how much of an impact a coach has on a team like this, and we're going to find out really quickly with this Boston Celtics team because they have the roster, they have the pieces to go all the way, to win a championship, and they can do it this year. But without Udoka, does that make a difference? I don't know. The only thing I'm also thinking about is the Eastern Conference got really good this year. So does that change the outlook for the Celtics in terms of their competition in the East? Because it's very deep now. You have Milwaukee, who's obviously going to be a threat. You could argue Brooklyn, maybe they can be a threat. I would argue Philadelphia is a legit threat. I would argue, Miami could be a threat. So they have all those teams to worry about on top of even the bottom tier teams like, let's say, like Toronto or Atlanta or Cleveland or the Bulls. Like, all of those teams, to me, even though they're not championship contenders, they can give some of these teams a run for their money. And, does that change if the Celtics go on a deep playoff run? Because they still can. Tatum's going to have an incredible year. I could see him, being in the conversation for the MVP race. I think it's very possible. Jaylen Brown has been a really good player for a few years now. I don't see that changing. Although there is some rumors about, he kind of took the KD rumors the hard way too. He kind of soured on it. People thought that, okay, if this duo was going to split up eventually, do you move on from Jaylen Brown? There's some indications about hey, could he leave soon? I don't know, but I'm just thinking about this year. They have him, Marcus Smart, coming off of a Defensive Player of the Year season. Robert Williams being hurt makes me think that they'll probably take Grant Williams off the bench and move him to the 4 and then put Al Horford at the 5 for now. That's the only way I see that working out, because that is still a good lineup, a very good lineup, right? Because Grant Williams can bring you some defense. He doesn't have the size, but he's a solid defender. I don't know if he gives you much on offense, but I don't think that's priority for that right now. You have Al Horford, you have Tatum and Brown, you have Smart. You're going to be okay. I think the Celtics are going to be able to weather the storm without Robert Williams pretty well. As good as Robert Williams is. He's really good, right? I think they'll be okay with that. The only question I have is, it's just tough, man, because the Celtics are so good, man. I'm looking at the depth chart right now, right? You have your starting 5, then you have Brogdon, Grant Williams, right? You have Derek White, Peyton Pritchard. Peyton Pritchard is kind of they don't really have good depth at center, but they can just, like I said, push Al forward to the 5 and then bring someone else in for the 4. But then after that, it's Luke Cornett. Center depth could be an issue for them, but it depends on if the Robert Williams thing becomes a long-term issue. It's possible. They said 8 to 12 weeks, which basically means he's going to miss probably the first month of the regular season, which is at the end of the world for this team. Could it hurt if maybe some things go wrong and it becomes a long-term thing? I think then you start to worry about the depth on this team. But regardless, I still think this is going to be a very good team. They'll be a contender for sure. I don't know, man. Udoka being gone is such a weird situation. I've never seen something like this, right? And let's just be honest right now. The whole situation to me kind of also indicates that he's not going to coach another game for the Celtics. That's it. He had 1 year coaching this team. I don't think he's going to coach another game. I think he's going to play out the rest of this suspension, and then they'll fire him afterwards. Or, depending on what comes out in the coming weeks or so, maybe more details come out about what he actually did. And if it ends up becoming a bigger issue and it turns out that he did some actually terrible things, then you let him go and you move on. And that's the thing, because from what we've indicated and from what we've heard, we haven't heard much detail about what specifically he did. There's some people who have said that it is really bad. There's a video yesterday of Matt Barnes who was like, oh yeah, I was defending Ime Udoka, but now I'm not because I heard what happened, and yeah, it's bad. Kendrick Perkins said the same thing too. He's like, oh, everyone's speculating, but no, I have the information. So I don't know. Players have connections, so they're gonna know more things than we do, obviously, but I'm just curious when we're gonna find out. When are we gonna know what exactly Udoka did? How damaging was it to the women involved, to the people involved, to the organization? How do they move on from that? Because if he gets fired, that's a huge thing, man. One of the best coaches in the league who had a really good year, being gone like that is a huge thing. Like I said, I think this is not the end of the world for the Celtics because they have a really good team, but it could be significant long term. I think this year it's not the end of the world. I think they'll be okay. They'll be really good this year, and they'll probably have a top 3 seed maybe. But long term, it could be an issue. I'll leave it at that. All right, thank you guys for watching. Sorry for like kind of rambling. I really didn't know what to say because this situation is so bizarre, man. I've never seen anything like this before, but I wanted to get my thoughts and also kind of give my thoughts on what the Celtics could be this year. Like I said, they'll be a contender for sure, so no doubt about that. All right, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment down below your thoughts on this whole situation, because yeah, this is bizarre to say the least. But yeah, if you also enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And that's it. Thank you guys for your support, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.